All right, so hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be talking about tips and tricks on how to nail job interview in English. First, let me tell you a few things about myself. I'm Mariana Sadunic, career coach. So what I do, I prepare to job interviews IT professionals from all over the world. I write resumes for them, cover letters for them, and I'm a former technical recruiter. So what I did, I interviewed tech professionals from the USA and Canada for the positions in USA and Canada, and I relocated IT people from all over the world to the USA, and that's actually when my career coaching experience started. Now, let's move with the main body. First of all, to understand how to prepare for a job interview, we need to answer one main question. Why do employers need this interview? You know, last week, one of my clients, he's an automation QA engineer. After somewhere in the middle of our coaching session, he was tired and confused of all my questions and trying to get and to invent the right answers. And he said, you know, Mariana, now I understand. Now it finally dawned on me why they sometimes hire dumb people that can do their tasks. I was intrigued. Why? I asked. And he said, because employers don't pay that much of attention to a technical interview itself. What they do pay attention to is how the person sells themselves during the interview, what presentation skills they have, what soft skills they have. And you know what? He's not alone thinking that. He's not alone hating all those HR managerial questions. And he's partly right. Majority of employers, majority of interviewers pay attention more to your soft skills than to tech skills. You know why? Because surprise, surprise, tech skills are much easier to learn and to build than soft skills. Knowing that, we now understand why do employers have all these rounds of interviews. They need to figure out who you are as a person, who you are technically wise, how well would you fit their team, because team usually works better and do much more job than one person alone. Doesn't matter how cool that person is and how technically wise that person is. Another thing what they need to do, and that's very also important, they need to understand if they can afford you. From my recruitment experience, there were a lot of people that were great technically and with soft skills, but my company clients couldn't afford them. So their salary expectations or their rate were much higher than the company's budgets, and that's okay. It sometimes happens. So we need to take into consideration all these factors and one more. This is, it doesn't matter what question during your interview your potential employer asks you, all the time they do really ask you is only this one question. How can we benefit from you if you're employed? What will you do for us? And what and how will you contribute to our company? How will we benefit from you if we hire you? For example, they ask you, very common interview question, tell me about yourself. And that actually means, tell me everything about yourself I need to know so I could understand how you will benefit my team, my company, in case they hire you. So you need to build your question, to build your answer like that. Next one, let it be, again, the most common. Tell me about your last story about your current project. You know what they're really asking you? Again, write the same question. Tell me everything I need to know about your current or last project so I could compare what skills that you gained there you can use on my project. What skills in the team that you built you can bring to my team. So I could understand how beneficial you would be for my current project. Let's take another example. Let's say a different one. Tell me about your strengths and weaknesses. What that means? Still the same. If you understand about strength, of course, it's just the same. How will we benefit from you? Then the weaknesses part means different. Tell me what weaknesses you have so I understand if I hire you, are there any pitfalls for me and my team, for my product, for my company then? And if I do know your weaknesses well, I could make a decision if I have some people in my team who can compensate with their knowledge, with their skills for the weaknesses that you have. Because maybe I like you so much and I like all your strength that your weaknesses are okay for my team. That's why the team is usually more important than one person. Okay, so knowing everything like this, now we know better how to build our answers. What will help us to prepare better is actually three things in this case. First is job description. You find the job description or job advertisement, whatever you have, and read it carefully. Not just the requirements section, the whole job description, where it's written about company, about your responsibilities, about nice to have, about what we offer you as well, because this gives you a lot of information, who they are and what they are looking for. Let me show you that. I just randomly picked some open position for QA automation engineer remote in Canada. Let me see how you need to work. Let me show you how you need to work with the job description itself. So what you take? First, you look at requirements section. There you see your tech skills, what they want, usually what they need from you. For this one, it's for sure will be Selenium, should be API testing and other tools and techniques for testing. You're not limit yourself with only these keywords, with only these requirements. What you read is you read upper part as well. Here it's what we're working on. Another thing about our project or about our team could be different names in the job description. And here you can see also the line that says they also require creativity, grit, and determination from you. Hello, hello, soft skills. What you do, knowing this information, for sure, during your interview, you need to mention these qualities if you have them. If you have just one, perfect, mention just one. Be honest. But if you have all three, sometime in the interview, sometime in your answers, you need to mention these qualities that you have them, because they are looking for that in candidates. And they probably won't ask you directly, say, are you a creative person? Are you a determined person? Because for sure you said, yeah, I am. They have very smart ways how to figure out that with their questions. And you're also very smart. You need to incorporate this to your answers. Another thing, also underlined, it's here. So they said that ideal candidate would have some exposure to logistics, fintech, transportation, or insurance industry, or any other complex multi-factor industries. Again, you look throughout all your experience in IT or even not in IT, it's okay. If you have experience working in any of these industries and you mention them somewhere again in your interview, talking about your experience, talking about yourself. Or if there's none of such industries, but still some multi-factor one, be sure you mention that as well. And be sure you emphasize that it's a multi-factor industry. If none of this is relevant to you, just skip it, just miss it, don't say anything. That's it. You'll have another strength for yourself. Another thing, still in the job description. Give me a moment. Yeah. Here are responsibilities. You see how huge they are? If we had requirements section like this, responsibilities are like this. Make sure you read them carefully. You can allow a lot of information from that. First of all, they have an agile team. You know how to work in agile mostly. Then, that's a position of automation QA engineer, but what did they say here? They say that you'll need to write manual and automation task scripts. What that means, that you will do some manual part as well? Maybe. I would note it for myself to check from a recruiter, from a hiring manager, from some tech person who'll be interviewing you. At every interview, usually at the end, the interviewer says, do you have any questions to me? Here's where you can take those questions. If there's anything that you need to clarify from the job description, from responsibilities section, or any other section, note it to yourself so you can ask those questions at the end of the interview. All right, next one. We do see here holistic task coverage. Make sure you know what that is. Make sure if you meet some unknown word in English, you translate it, not just word, but the whole phrase to understand what they really want from you here. We move next. Again, technical stuff. You pay attention to that. If you worked with everything like that, if you didn't, maybe you work with something similar, or if you didn't work even with anything similar, you go and check what that is. Read an article, maybe you have time for a short course, crash course, who knows, that would help a lot. Next one, we see here best practices within the project. So you need to implement best practices within the project. Make sure you mention all this also, that you already implemented best practices within the project, what it gave you. And you'll figure out when it would be right place to mention that if you already know what you should mention. Again, next one. They want you to meet automation goals. On the previous slide, in their about section, they wanted you to be determined. This is the same, that meeting goals. And to be able to create strategy and a plan, which is probably also about you. Okay, so that's about the job description. Again, you read carefully all the job description and underline for yourself keywords, which are not only technical stuff, but also soft skill stuff and some information about them or about your responsibilities that you would like to clarify with them. Let's get back. Another thing that can help you to prepare for the interview the best way, I said it would be 3. So the second one is company information. What you do, you navigate to their website, to Glassdoor, to Indeed, to any other website or platform that can help you to figure out who they are, what their mission, what their values, what their culture, their product, and stuff like this. Last but not least, you can figure out what their salary range or their salary range for this particular position, because that's also important because you need to know what number to give them when they ask. Let's continue. These are 2 things. The third thing about this thing, everyone forgets for some reason. This is your network. Think thoroughly if you know anybody who works in that company. Maybe you know somebody who knows somebody who works in that company and can introduce you to that person. From that person, you can ask the things that you haven't found on the internet. So you can ask about the interview process, what's not written there, and what probably your recruiter didn't tell you about, some inside information. You can figure out maybe what questions do they like to ask? Why not? Then you will be prepared with your answers. You can figure out what they really look for and they forgot to say that in job description or just intentionally didn't say it in the job description. You can ask what the salaries are like in that company. You'll give some, at least clues what you can ask for. And last but not least, you can ask for referrals. What that means, that person from that company, let's imagine you have someone in that company, can come to close to hiring manager or a team lead who will be interviewing and say, hey, I heard you will be interviewing, I don't know, Petro Shevchenko. He's a great guy, +1 for him. You know what? You've just been referred by a trusted source, and it would be way easier to be better during the interview. And even if you're equal with some other person, all your results are just the same, they'd still hire you. You can't even imagine how many people I reached to in our company or from my network if I wanted to hire someone. Do you know that person? What is he or she as a team player or as a professional and stuff like this? This helps a lot. Okay, so these 3 things we've covered. Now, main block, let's say, most common interview questions. Some of them you probably heard even from me now. So in 93% of all interviews, they will start with, tell me about yourself. You must probably heard that your answer for this one should be like an elevator pitch, short and straight to the point. And if you heard that, absolutely right. The person was absolutely right. How to answer that question? We remember that they ask us, tell me about yourself. But what they really mean, tell me everything I need to know so I could understand how I will benefit from you if I hire you. Knowing that, you don't start your answer with, my name is, I am 32 years old. You start your answer with your title. They already know your name. And about the title, if that's possible, ideally, your title should be the same as in the job description. What I mean here, if they're looking for software developer in test, that for example, and you're an automation QA engineer, but reading the job description, you understand that you're doing just quite the same what they want from you. Call yourself software developer in test. Everyone understands it could be the same, but if they hear this, oh, it's like a magic. Another thing, if you're a switcher, it would be your first job in IT. And they're looking, let's say, for Java developer. So don't say that you're a sales manager that want to enter IT career and become a Java developer. You already finished some course. You probably have a few pet projects or at least final project for the course. You're already a Java developer. So say I'm a Java developer and continue your story about yourself. Next one, years of experience, then industries. Remember in the job description, I gave you the examples of the industries. If you know, and you know for sure because you read about the company, what industry they work in, and you have some experience back in throughout your career with some of that industries, say them. That I'm a Java developer with main focus on, I don't know, Spring Boot, J2E, Core Java, whatever. And I've been working in such industries. Their industry goes first, then others, for example. If nothing relevant to them about industries, skip that. You don't need to tell that. Move to the skills, tech skills and soft skills again. So you'd say all your technologies, programming languages, tools, and again, soft skills. Here you can mention if that's true and if they need it, that you're a creative, determined person with a strong character. If you're an automation QA engineer, for sure you need to mention, or even manual, it doesn't matter. For sure you need to mention that you have a precise attention to detail and analytical thinking, because that's core. It's a soft skill, which is sort of like a hard skill also for QA people, for QA engineers. Okay. Then you mentioned them, their your skills, the tools and technologies and programming languages and methodologies that you work with, that you have experience with, that you have expertise with. And you say what all of this, your skills, your expertise, your experience helped you to achieve. This is very important. So you say that about achievements or accomplishments, 2 or 3 main things that you accomplished throughout all your IT career and you're the most proud of them. Ideally, you say them with numbers. For example, increased API and UI test coverage from 30% to 95% based on traceability metrics. Or that was for QA. If for a developer built a framework that saved 20% of team's time for developing critical features. Now your interviewer understands that everything you said before is not just plain water, plain words, how good I am. That it's true, that you used all your skills, all your experience, and actually did something. After that, it's not the end. You remember what they really asking you. So how you need to finish, you've been saying everything about yourself. Now, and your question, your answer with them. Say that you want to take all your experience, all your expertise, and work with them on their product, in their team, at their company, and why. Say that you want to contribute to their success, to meet their goals. And that's the best answer for tell me about yourself. Let's move on. About switchers. If you're a switcher who don't know who's a switcher, explain. Switchers are people who want to change their career. So they're moving from, let's say, sales, let it be sales, to engineers, to IT. That's why they're called switchers. They are moving their careers. They're switching their careers. So if you're a switcher, how should you answer for tell me about yourself? Should look like. Again, title, I explained about that for you. Then you talk about your tech course. You talk about your pet projects if you do have them. I hope you do. Better have them. You talk about your volunteering experience if you do have it. You talk about maybe some internship. Also, you can have it. What you learned there, what skills you've gained there. All this is tech part. Again, tools, technologies, languages, everything connected with tech part. And then don't forget about soft skills. Again, here you can talk about your previous jobs as well. Because soft skills are transferable. You can take them from another industry to IT. And employers really value this. Again, I told you that at the beginning. Employers value soft skills a lot. About accomplishments or achievements, you can say, again, about some of your projects that you had or about achievements during your course. Why not? Maybe you were the best in class, or maybe you helped someone in your class a lot, something like this. And if that's relevant, again, we're talking not only about hard skills, but also soft skills. You can bring some achievements from your previous employment, from your previous work. Again, better with numbers. And it should be, again, something that you're proud of. How you finish? Same thing. You want to work with them. You explain them actually why IT, why you like this stuff, why you like them, and that you want the role and want to work with them. Now moving to tell me about your last project or current project. It depends whether you're now employed or not. What you need to do, you again remember what they really asking you. Sound in this question? You give a brief description of the project so they understand what you worked on. Their environment, the environment of the project, the technologies, the tasks, what you were building. You're talking then about your responsibilities. Now, again, if some of your responsibilities coincide with the responsibilities mentioned in the job description, remember that? Responsibilities in the job description, I can show you that. It's a very huge part here. Make sure you take right there phrases if you do the same or if you did the same, and say it to them with the right same phrases as they did in the job description. Why? Because it works like magic if you speak with people the same language. And by saying the same language, I don't mean English. I mean exactly same words with exactly same phrases with exactly the same meaning. Because subconsciously, they'll understand that you're their guy or their girl. Look, you even talk like them. That works. Okay, next one. Your main technical and personal strength in the project. So again, you again mentioned all the technologies and languages and tools you work in this project, you work within this project, and you again mentioned your soft skills that helped you in that project. It could be a team player, could be again precise attention to details, could be, why not, creativity. And that's not the end. You say again how all that helped you to accomplish something in that project and what that was. So in the tell me about yourself, you're talking about your achievements and accomplishments throughout all your IT career. Here, only project, the last one itself. So the accomplishment could be minor, but it's still okay. The time frame is shorter. Again, preferably should be numbers or percentage. If you don't have numbers or if you don't have percentage, it's still okay. But explain what exactly you did and how this benefited to the team, to the project, or to the company. 3. Okay, so again, it could be, you know, saving time, saving money, gaining more money, or getting more clients, or getting more famous on the market. Anything that helped the project, the team, or the company, right? Okay, next one. Tell me about your strengths and weaknesses. Again, you know what they're asking you about. And usually it's easy for people about strength, yeah? At least we can talk about what we're good at. At least we do have a job description. They want us to be proficient in with Selenium, for example. We are proficient. This is my strengths. Good one. Or another. So pick 2, 3 strengths, job description related, and tell them about them. Ideally, not only tell them about it, but give some examples. I'm not just good, I'm great with this one, or I have expertise with this one, or I have solid experience with this one, and I did this, and that, using that, and one. You can even repeat yourself. It's absolutely okay to repeat yourself during the interview. What I mean here, you can mention here, giving in examples, some of your accomplishments that you mentioned during tell me about yourself answer or tell me about your last project answer. That's absolutely fine, and you repeat yourself. It will show that you're not inventing anything, that you're not lying, that you're saying the truth. And don't be afraid to sound, you know, like ridiculous or something, because just treat it as a conversation with a friend. If you have this, you can, you know, move back and forward, speaking about the subject if that's the same. Okay, now about weaknesses part. This one's usually harder. And please don't say for this one, oh, you know what? I'm a perfectionist. If you're not a perfectionist, or if you don't think that it's a weakness, it doesn't work like this. The interviewer wants to know that you're a self-aware person, that you know your strong sides, that you know your weak sides. Everyone has weak sides, and only fools think they don't have any. You don't want to be that fool, do you? So what you do with your weaknesses and how you say it, in an interview? First, the weakness should be, again, job related. So what we do, we take the job description, scan it right before the interview, we're preparing, and scan. Okay, what skills do they want from you? And if you have them. If you don't have some skill, hello, weakness. What you do with that one? You don't just to name, oh, I don't have that technology. I don't have experience with that. Not the way to do that. What you do? You think maybe that technology or that language or that tool or whatever they asking you for, maybe you work with something similar. What you say, so when they ask you about the weaknesses, you say, well, actually, I don't have the experience working with this, but I did work with that, and they are pretty similar. So I think I'll catch up really fast. I even read about that in an article last week or just before our interview, and yeah, it would be pretty fast. Another thing that you do, you can say, well, actually, I haven't worked with that. But when I read it and saw it in the job description, I understood, okay, I have everything they need except this part. So I found a course in Coursera and I'm almost finishing it. I understand it's not practice and it's not hands-on experience, but I think it would take me 2 weeks, 1 month to catch up. You see, now they know that you are a self-aware person, you know your strong sides, you know your weak sides for them and for their goals. And you don't only know them, but you're working already to compensate this, to overcome this, to fix your weakness. This is the best thing you can do answering this question. Another, if you really look at the job description and you think, oh, I'm ideal fit for this one. No weaknesses for this job description. Wow. Still don't say this in an interview. Find some weakness could be now for soft skills, not tech part, that you had in the past or in close past and that you already overcome. Again, it will show just the same that you're a self-aware person. And when you find some blind spot in yourself, some weakness in yourself, you don't leave it just there. Oh, let it be there. You work on it to fix it, to overcome it, to become better, to develop. That's about strength and weaknesses question. Let's move on. Tell me about a situation when behavioral questions. You'll hear these questions 100% in an interview. There are tons of them. There are thousands of them. And they usually start with this one. Tell me about a time, tell me about a situation, describe a situation, think about a time when, and they ask you whatsoever, any situation you can imagine. The best way to answer this question is to use STAR technique or SAR technique. You can omit sometimes T. I'll explain why. What do we do? First, you describe the situation to them. So let's say they asked you, tell me about a time when you didn't meet the deadline. So you say, well, we were working on this and we had this situation. We saw that we wouldn't meet the deadline or something like that, doesn't matter. Then your task, what did you have to do in that situation? Then your actions, what did you actually do? 1, 2, 3. And that's not the end. What you also do is say about the result, what your action brought actually. And that's very important. Can you see that woman with a star above her head and a cup in her hand? That means the result should be always positive, always great. Always in your answer in an interview. I mean, even if they ask you a question, for example, Tell me about a time when you failed. Failure is not a result. Failure is still an action here. So remember this. All the time, you describe the situation, say about the task, or you can skip it because it could be clear from the situation. For sure, you say 1, 2, 3, what you did, or 4 or 5, or just 1. And you mention the result. A lot of my clients do forget it all the time. A lot of my candidates did forget it all the time. I, as a recruiter, usually ask, well, okay, so what was the result? The result was this one, was great one. Actually, everyone was happy because I saved the team. But you know what? If in the next interview or in the previous interview, there would be a person that was saying all about this with the result, and recruiter just, or hiring manager or team lead, whoever interviews you, just forgets to ask you about the result, they just would hire that person just because they mentioned what it actually brought. So don't forget about the result, and remember, it should be good. It should be great. If the result is bad, it's not a result, it's an action. And you still took one more action and got a good result. I'll give you an example. Let it be about something, something negative. Tell me about the time when you failed. So you don't finish with a failure. You say, okay, we were working on this, this, and that, and I had to do this. So I did this, this, and that, but at the end, we failed. It's not the result. It's an action. Still an action. What should you do and say after that is to say, oh, after that, I analyzed everything and I learned from this situation, this, and that. So next time when I had it, we actually did it and we actually had great result. Can you see that? Can you see how it's different? How it shows you? Not just like a person, with a short memory. Okay, mistake, failure, let's move on. No, not only let's move on, but let's make the conclusions and learn from it. And moreover, use it the right time next time. Okay, so again, it's STAR, situation, task, action, result. Feel free to meet the task if it's clear from the situation. Okay, I told you that there could be, and there are thousands of behavioral questions. And it's very hard to know what interviewer can ask you, what behavioral questions you'll hear during the interview. They won't ask you a whole 1,000 for sure. They won't ask you even 10, maybe. Maybe they ask you more. But I prepared to you very useful block. You can see it right now on your screens. What I want you to do is to prepare for behavioral questions using this 8 simple blocks. How you do this? You take the first block, challenges, for example, and you think, set aside some time and think about the challenges that you had on your current project, last project, throughout all your career. It could be any challenge, with the people, with deadlines, tech challenge, anything. And you answer for that block using STAR technique. It would be very hard to do that in the interview, to remember the situation, to remember a good example with a great result, because let's be honest, not all results are great, but you should mention good result in an interview. So I recommend you to do it at home. Then you take the adaptability block. Adaptability is all about the situations when you have to work with something new, new technology, new system, new product, new team member. So how you adapt, how flexible you are, how agile you are if you want. Then cultural add. It's again very important. You know from the job description and from the information that you learned about the company, you know what their culture like. So think about the examples throughout your career, how it can show them, your example using STAR, how your example can show them that you're a good culture add to their team. It won't be that easy, but if you think for a few minutes or maybe a few days, you'll find an example. Next one, collaboration and teamwork. Think about the situations where you were a really great team player or where you achieved great results with your team. Leadership. It doesn't have to be some lead position so they could ask you a leadership question. It could be any position. So what you need to do, again, you need to think where were some situation when you took initiative and took a lead. Could be some minor situation. Why not? You motivated your team, or you saw it's a bad idea, you took a lead and presented that to your manager, and then you won. Like the whole team won, not only you from that. So think about that examples. If you're fresh, if that would be, your first role in IT or any job, you can trace back your experience at university, maybe some volunteering work, maybe some other work. Internship, why not? Mistakes and failures. I touched that a bit already. Think about the mistakes you made. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has failures. Not everybody could speak about that openly. You should learn to do that. And you should learn to figure out what you learned from that thing, from your mistakes and from your failures, and to say about that to your interviewer. I just gave you the example using that STAR technique about failure. Okay, growth potential. They would ask you anything connected with what have you learned this year, this month, throughout your career? What are you going to learn? Do you have any plans? Something like this. So think about that. And last but not least, oh, believe me, it's not least, organizational and prioritization skills. So they need to know how you manage your time. Make sure you have some example for the situation when you weren't able to meet the deadline, when you had critical tasks that you had to do at the same moment and you were multitasking, stuff like this. Again, STAR technique, all these blocks. Believe me, most of this 1,000 behavioral questions go round and round of all these 8 blocks. They could be asked in a very different way, but they mean quite the same. So if you're ready with that one and prepare 2-3 examples for each of them, you'll shine during answering these questions. Remember, it's STAR: situation, task, action, and result, which is always positive, always great. Let's continue. Another question they can ask you. Imagine that, what if something? Let's picture that you're in a team and all these are hypothetical questions. What they want you to do, they don't ask about your real experience. They ask you to imagine you're already in a team and something happens. What would you do? You say, I would, and use our old great STAR technique. I would do this, this, and that to get this, this, and that result. You know what would also work great in this one? If you actually had similar situation in the past, you'll say something like, you know what? I actually had such situation. And what I did was this, this, and that brought this great result. It shows that you, again, have a good analytical thinking and you can connect your experience with what can happen to you or can wait to you in the future, and with the challenges that could be in the future with you. Okay, next one. I mentioned it somewhere in the beginning, so you probably know that already. At the end of almost every interview, the interviewer usually says, well, I already have everything I need. Do you have any questions to me? It doesn't matter if you do have questions or not, you better do. You need to say, yes, I do have questions. Prepare them beforehand. Remember, it could be something not that clear in the job description you want to understand. Or maybe you read about the company and you need to know something. If nothing comes to your mind, everything seems clear, still you need to ask the question to show your genuine interest. You can ask about the challenges of the position. You can see that. You can ask about the team, the size of the team, their culture, what they usually do, how they spend their free time, why not? About the environment, about the process, this is the tech stuff, about their culture, about opportunities for growth, why not? One question I really also like, this one's a long one, but this one works. You say to the interviewer, you give them, your situational question, why not? You say this. Imagine you made an ideal hire and a year passed. You look back, what qualities do you see in that ideal candidate for this position? What did he or she do, what they had done for this year to be great for this position, to exceed your expectations? And they list you all features they want from you. You listen carefully to that features, and this is, you say, well, it actually ideally matches me. If it does, be honest. In the interview, be honest. But not too much, to be honest. Think of an interview as a first date. You want to be honest. You want to make a good impression. But you want to be too much honest. You don't want to be too much honest and tell about all your skeletons in the wardrobe there. So think of that as a first date. Making a good impression, still be honest. Okay, so you can ask that. Or if you hear that you lack something, again, show your self-awareness and say, hey, I actually do have everything except this one, but at the same time, say what you're going to do to have that one to be ideal for their role. At the end, it also works great. If you do this, if you shortly describe how you see the position with your own words to the interviewer and say, well, have I missed anything? And then the interviewer will correct you or not, or they will say, yeah, well, actually, everything you said is correct. So that's about question to employer section. Make sure you do have questions. Could be just 3 questions, could be just 2, doesn't matter, but you need to have these questions. By the way, there could be another question about salary, why not? There's a very common, probably, theme they usually say is, who gives the number first loses for sure. It's not true. It's not true. How to deal with the salary question? First of all, when the recruiter makes the first call to you, the first is screening when they need to figure out whether you're adequate or not. You can ask the recruiter, by the way, what's the range for this position? What's the salary range for this position? And some of the recruiters will tell you the range is this one. Some of them will say, well, we don't discuss salary until the final round of the interview, which is also okay. It's a bit weird to me as a former recruiter, but it's also okay. They have their own policies. So it's up to you if to proceed or not with such interview process. I'd suggest you do proceed for sure, even if some salary would be that you won't agree. Why? Because if it's an interview in English, you just have experience passing the interview in English, and you have it for free. Believe me, my clients pay me a lot for that experience. That's why I'll encourage you to proceed with that one. If you don't ask the recruiter about the salary, you forgot, you're afraid, you're intimidated, whatever, you can ask about the salary on the next stage. At the end, when there's, do you have any questions to me, comes, you ask all the questions about the team, the position, the product, the technologies, all this stuff, and say, oh, by the way, I forgot to ask the recruiter on our first call, what's the salary range for this role? And they give you the range, or they can say, wait till the end. Doesn't matter. What if the roles are swapped? What if it's a first call with the recruiter and they say, oh, can you tell me what's your current salary and what are your salary expectations for this role? Hello, hello. They cut you. Usually, at least they say this. No. You need to understand what the position is and what salary you want. First of all, if that's in Ukraine, or if that's a remote role and you still live in Ukraine, you understand what salary is good for you. You understand your expenses, your lifestyle, and how much you want to earn. So what you do, you pick a number for yourself, ideal number that you would work for, that you're comfortable working for. You add to that number some sum. A few thousands, if that's a year salary, a few hundreds, why not? Or maybe 1,000, it's up to you. It's your salary expectations. If that's a month salary, and you give them the range. Oh, well, my salary expectations is, let's say it's relocation, it's 150K, 160K for a year. Why not? So again, if we're talking about the range that you give, the first number, the lower number, is your ideal salary, the one that you're perfect, you're fine working with. And the higher one is the one that, oh, would be nice to have. Why not? Just to, to check. Maybe they can offer that, maybe not. You'll see. What they can answer to you. They can answer to you, oh, okay, which means you're in their budget, and that's great. Or they can answer to you, well, to be honest, our budget's lower. And then you ask, well, give me your range then. You listen to their range, and not to be taken off guard, I also recommend you to those two numbers that you just figure out to yourself, add one more. This is the lowest salary you would work for if, and that's your if the social package is great, why not? Again, it's your decision. If the technologies they are working with are great, you would work for that number. If you really like the team, if you really like the project, you would work for that number. So have for yourself, prior to the interview, prepare yourself for this discussion, for this negotiation, what the lowest number you would work for if they match some of your other requirements. So then when they say, oh, we're afraid our budget is a bit lower for that role, our ranges are this and that, you can say, oh, well, I really like the position, so I could be negotiable to that number. Or you can say, I really like the position and I really appreciate that, but unfortunately, I can't go lower than, and you tell them your number and say, can you be negotiable to that? Oh, how can we work this out? So you pass the ball to their part. Now they are thinking. This stuff. And other stuff, if that's the position for relocation. So you're relocating, let's say to Canada. Yeah, we have job description from Canadian. What you do, they ask you, well, can you tell me about your salary expectations? And you say, well, I started to do a research about Canada and cost of life there, but I still haven't finished, so I cannot tell you the number right now. Can you give me the range? Again, you pass the ball to them. They give you the range or they don't. It all depends on the company, on the recruiter, and other factors. If they do, you know what they can offer you. You do your research and you can understand, are you fine with that or are you not? Stuff like this. I hope that helps. Let's continue. What I want you to remember, and this mistake make almost everyone from my clients who are not native speakers. Native speakers never make this mistake, never. What it is, if they tell you about a potential coworker and you say, oh, of he, or if you say, if they are talking about potential client and you say he, my goodness, you'll be rejected right away. You're sexist. Not he, they, or he or she. That's very important, especially in the USA, in Canada as well, in Europe as well, especially in the USA. Again, somebody, client, candidate, whoever, employee, whatever, not he, they, or he or she. Okay. Okay, and the last one, because I really want us to be on time. This is preconditioning yourself to an interview. Interview is always stressful. Even sometimes for me when I prepare some really, CEOs or departments, head of departments of washer, something like that. Knowing that the interview is stressful and you're gonna be nervous, probably, most likely, what you need to do, you need to prepare yourself. You need to reduce stress and anxiety. How to do that? There are 2 things that would help you just as. This is breath and movement. You do any breathing exercise, you do your yoga, you do your dancing, you do your push-ups. Make sure you're not sweating during the interview. Whatever makes you, whatever helps you, whatever reduces your stress and your anxiety. So you're in good mood, you should be yourself during the interview. So you can, just listen to your favorite song. Why not? Or dance, not during the interview, before the interview, a few minutes before the interview. Or again, do squats. Why not? Do squats. What works for you? For me, for example, I'm sitting right now in that woman's pose. It's not that I'm stressed, but I usually do this because it's just comfortable for me. And who knows? Maybe that's why I'm not stressed, Another thing is that this interview will be in English. English is not your first language, which doubles the stress. And to be fluent in English, to become in English, precondition yourself as well. Listen to something, 15 minutes, 5 minutes in English before an interview. You need to be in that tune, in that English tune, in that English mood. Maybe some podcasts that you like, maybe some music, maybe some news, like the peak, motivating news, not disturbing news. Anything that works for you. A movie, why not? Or speak to yourself in English. It's always good to speak with a wise person. Why not? Yeah, that would help a lot. And you'll shine in your interview, you'll do your best, and you'll get your position. That's it from my side. Thank you very much for listening for all this hour to me. I hope this one was useful. I'd be really glad if you connect with me. If you connect on LinkedIn, there's online information in English about interview, about how to write the resume, cover letter, and stuff like this. Now it's more about war, but I'll make sure I'll get back to interview preparation as well there. And Instagram and Facebook, mostly in Ukrainian, sometimes in English as well. Here also I write about English as well, because I'm a career coach and an English teacher. A lot of my clients, come for the interview and then continue with English for their work. So right there about an interview, about the resume, plus some tips and tricks of English communication. Okay, that's it from my side. Now I want to see if you have any questions. And if you do, I really ask you to ask them in the chat. If you don't, we'll just wrap up. Remember I said you always need to know the questions. To know your questions and to ask your questions. Okay, I don't see any questions here. Oh, I do. Thank you, Igor. Thank you. What I also want to tell you, someone at the beginning of the interview, of the presentation asked how to answer the question if they tell you you're overqualified. Thank them, say that you understand that, and ask if they have a position for you. If they don't, stay in touch. That's it for overqualified. Okay. Okay, that's it. Let me do some print screen for your feedback. I really like some feedbacks. Thanks again for listening to me today. And hope you have a great day and hope you'll have a great preparation for your interviews and pass all your job interviews in flying colors. Have a good evening. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.